Ben, welcome to the potty.
Thank you very much for having me, Noah.
I think you're probably the first person that we've had on with a lovely UK accent as well, so it's good.
I don't know if it's a lovely accent, but yeah, it's originally from Newcastle, so yeah,
Awesome.
northeast of England.
Nice, man. Hey, for people who don't know you or your mahi, do you mind just introducing yourself?
Yeah, so obviously I'm Ben Edusei, so originally from Newcastle, came here 13 years ago, and I work as a personal trainer, men's health advocate, ambassador for Movember, a running coach, and trying to help improve people's health and well-being.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very simple way of putting it, but it's a little bit more complex than that.
That's nice. And I was really keen with this interview, Ben, is to start at the very beginning. So to talk around your early childhood and what were those key moments in your life growing up which sort of led you to where you are today. But I guess before we get into that, growing up in the UK, do you mind just talking about your childhood? What was it like? What sort of kid were you like when you were 8 years old?
Good question. Life for me was looking back, quite difficult. In the north of England at that time, racism was a huge issue, and my parents interracial. So we had to move very, very abruptly. Got things thrown through our windows, like, as I say, racial slurs all over the place. So it was quite a harsh upbringing.
Do you remember your first experience with racism while we're on that topic? Like, how old were you and what happened?
God, this would have been like 6 or 7. And I was having to fight all the kids who were trying to push me around. Parents had to go into school, and eventually it was like, that was normality. So for myself and for my brother. And my sisters also copped it as well, because my sisters had a different father to me. So it was, my dad was black, 2 brown boys, and then mum was white, sister was white. So yeah, it was a very blended family. And at that time, I wasn't really seen around that part. So yeah, so a lot of kind of confrontation. Not the wealthiest of families as well, so quite a poor upbringing. But yeah, it was something that we had to do, was have each other's back. And yeah, so grateful that, the people in my family were there to kind of stand up when needed. So we ended up having to move to a different area just because there was 1 or 2 gangsters who were looking at us, which was a little bit frightening. And yeah, we moved into a new area, and things started to change just because we were in a better area. And yeah, just able to kind of get into sport, which was a huge thing for me. I think that was a game changer. If I didn't have sport, I don't know if I would be here now. And then, yeah, unfortunately, 2 years after it being 8, my mum was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. And that was a mental illness is something that's been huge in my family right from the get-go. So my mum being sick, and then my dad losing his sister when I was quite young. We saw the side effects of that. Him originally being from Ghana, West Africa, coming to England, homesickness, we saw that a lot. And you could see he would have hard times when he just wanted to go back. So yeah, so childhood for me was, looking back now, quite a difficult one. And something where you had to be very aware of how people were and kind of not putting too much pressure on them. But in some ways, that came back to haunt me a little bit later on in life, because I wouldn't speak how I was truly feeling, because I wouldn't want it to affect people.
With is it paranoid schizophrenia?
Yeah.
What is that diagnosis? What does that mean?
So essentially, paranoid schizophrenia is can host a whole different thing. So it can be like a different personality. When you read something, you will kind of relate it to you. If you watch something, you'll think it's honestly happened to you. So voices in your head, which are more and more extreme. It can be signs of very kind of extreme violence. So a lot of people who do, murders and things can be forms of paranoid schizophrenia. You just feel like everyone else is against you, and it's you against the world, and you've just got to fight. And there was quite a few circumstances where we saw that with my mum, and the only way it could calm down was with medication and things, but that kind of dulls them down as well. So it's
kind of like sedates you a bit.
So when I look back at my childhood with my mum, I can't really remember what it was like pre, which is, a bit of a shame. Yeah, and yeah, she's a fighter. She's a remarkable woman, and she's fought all her life for so many things. But yeah, it's just something where it can be you're perfectly fine one moment, and then extreme aggression or sadness or whatever. So you're kind of always on your toes with it.
And is that something which she developed quite later in life, or something that she always had but then was diagnosed?
It was later for her. It usually it can come from a small bout of stress, or it can be continuous stress.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember, it was after my sister's wedding. So it was like a huge strain. And obviously not being financially, that secure. I think that was the tipping point. And also lifestyle as well. If you are taking drugs, I don't know if they did, but drugs, alcohol, all that sort of stuff, lack of sleep, all these things tend to affect your mental well-being. So don't know what it was. It can be something short, or it can be just something long, sustained, unresolved issues.
That would be really hard, especially being, like an 8-10-year-old boy, not understanding really the reality of a mental illness, and then seeing the effects firsthand on your mum. And especially if, unfortunately, that filtered back down to the way that she behaved with you guys, or the way she treated you, or maybe lashed out at times, or whatever sort of went on. I can just only imagine how tough that would be at times.
Yeah, I mean, as I say, I think the good thing is we got a diagnosis pretty early on, so we knew straight away, and you ask questions as a child, so you're quite inquisitive about it. And I didn't know anything else, so I just saw it as it was, and it wasn't until you look back at it and you're like, whoa, that was actually pretty intense. How the life that we had, but when you're a child, you just get on with it.
Yeah, and it's just normal, right? Because that's your reality. You don't know anything different. Yeah. Did you, with your mum being diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, did that make you form maybe like a closer bond with your old man?
Yeah.
Was he like really playing that sort of father figure in the household, being that glue between you all?
Yeah, 100%. So when my mum went to hospital, came back out, parents split up, and because my mum was sick, we stayed with my dad.
Right.
And my dad was old school African, like education. But we needed that. We needed the discipline, the structure. Like, I'm probably happiest when I've got goals. I'm working towards them.
Same.
Fairly, just not kind of letting my emotions like dictate my life. It's like, if I've got to get something done, doesn't matter how I feel, get it done.
Yeah.
It's like, that to me is such a huge thing. And my dad definitely installed that. And there was a bit of fear there as well, which is, I think, can be healthy when you're growing up as a teenage boy, because you push the boundaries all the time. So to have someone there to be like, whoa, you need to, before I put you back in your place, definitely helped. And both my brother and I have said, if we had been with my mum, we don't know where we would have ended up. With my dad, it was like, he definitely, for boys, we needed a strong male role model. So.
Yeah, so important, eh?
Yeah.
Was there, like, what was that one, I guess, important life lesson which you learned through your father? I know there's definitely one from my mum, and I feel like everyone's sort of got one, eh, when you reflect on your parents and growing up. But I remember my mum would always make sure, I think like every year we would like go over all of my old toys.
Yeah.
And then for whatever toys I didn't need, she would make sure that would put them to like Salvation Army or something. And it was a really funny process as like a 5 to 4 year old, because you're like, I still love this like Superman action figure. Like, no, mum, like I'm going to play with this one day. But she would really reinstate it into me that like so many kids don't have toys in the first place. Yeah, so I'm really keen to hear. Have you got any?
I'd definitely say it was the education aspect. It was like, you don't understand how lucky you are to be in this position. Like, he had to fight for everything, and he was like, just don't waste it. That would be one thing. It was definitely making sure that we were constantly trying to push ourselves in that area. And then I guess when it came to playing sports, because he never really got to watch me play sports. And it was always a big deal when he did.
Yeah.
And I remember one game playing football or soccer. I had a bit of a howler. And he just turned around and was, I expected like an arm over the shoulder. And he was like, what was that? And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, I'm not expecting this off your dad. And he was like, you know what? It's gone. Next game, prove yourself. Every game you got to prove yourself. I don't care about any reputation, because I think what he started to see was I was starting to get a bit of a reputation, and I was getting a bit more of an ego. And he was like, nah, you got to prove yourself every game. And if you don't, you're only as good as your last game, and all them kind of cliches. And it was a big slap in the face, because, you know, I thought I was pretty hard, to be honest, playing football. And it was like, actually, I'm not as good as what I was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, as I say, some people might think that's quite tough, but it was just what I needed at that right moment. And I think he had a way with words as well. Yeah, he was very good at talking to people.
Yeah.
And giving them what they needed instead of what they wanted, which is hugely important.
That's good, eh? There's something about being a child and your old man like watches you play footy or plays rugby. It's like you get that like fire, eh? You're like, I need to impress the old man. There's something about it.
Yeah, 100. And it's like my brother as well. My brother's a huge, like, I would say he's kind of like a father figure to me as well. And if I played, it would be, their critique was everything to me. Just making sure that I was doing right by them. And yeah, it was, as I said, both of them had that ability to tell me what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So yeah, very blessed to have that.
Yeah.
But yes, so many memories though that I could go through so many, to be honest with you, when it comes to that.
And then moving into footy, so you played football at professional level over in the UK, semi-professional.
Yeah,
we
close.
can say professional.
Yeah,
Sounds
I mean,
cool.
yeah, you can give me the professional card. So yeah, so I played at Newcastle United until I was 16, and then got released, and then played at, if I say Darlington, basically lower league football for a while, and then played right at the cusp of, it's called Unibond, which is just on the cusp of professional football.
Yeah.
Played there, but it was just such an unstable environment. It's a cutthroat business. You know, it's when I played Newcastle, there was international teammates. You know, people from Africa, would be from other parts of Europe, and it would just be content circulation, so people would get released, come in, and you just never knew kind of where you were.
Yeah.
However, you've got people telling you you're going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, so never reached that level. And some people say that, you know, injuries and stuff. Truth be told, I just wasn't good enough. I think that was, yeah. I just, some people just need to hear that sometimes about themselves. Just wasn't good enough when the moment came.
Yeah.
And then playing lower league, could say semi-pro, pro. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. And actually it was affecting my mental well-being, just because it's very aggressive, the business, and people are just trying to climb in and get into that sort of a career path.
True.
And they will do anything for it.
True.
So yeah, it just wasn't for me. And eventually I tried to retire at the age of 22, 21.
Yeah. Long career.
Yeah, long career.
Retirement speech.
And then I kind of got pulled back in.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just something that, looking back, I played because I was good at, not because I truly loved it.
Right.
It was just something that, I did. People were good, give me opportunities. So I was like, why did I take them?
It's crazy over in England too, right? Like just how much the English culture is surrounded around playing football. Like I recently watched that David Beckham documentary.
Oh,
fuck, man. Like the amount of like abuse he got from the public, like, you know, dummies of him being hung in the streets after being like sent off by England. And what I found crazy is like, even within that documentary, the coach, his own coach, was like slanting him. Yeah. And it wasn't like, okay, cool, you know, there's 10 other men on the pitch. We shouldn't, if one player comes off, we should still have the capacity to like turn this game around. He was like, nah, super disappointed. It's just, it is wild. So yeah, growing up within that environment, playing football at that level was, because I feel like in New Zealand we're probably a lot more relaxed and chilled out. But was it? Were you in competition with your peers from every second?
100%. It was kind of like your teammates, but you're not.
Yeah,
because
true. You're fighting for their spot. They're fighting for yours.
Yeah, so it's like a contract. So that's what you're fighting for. You can be friends, but if it comes between you and that person, you're going for it yourself, you know, and it's like, there's no shame in that. We all know that. Yeah, really competitive. I used to play as a kid. It's called Sunday League, which is
Sunday League.
Yeah, Sunday League.
Yeah.
And there was I remember one game where one of the parents started racially abusing me. The next thing I know, my manager comes across the pitch, headbutts him. I had a scout watching me.
Zidane.
Like
nice.
full on. And then I get carried away by a scout who's watching me play. I didn't know who he was. So he was from Newcastle United. And he ended up taking me into a car and driving me off. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm in tears. I'm thinking, I don't know where I'm going to. Eventually took me home. And he was like, yeah, that's kind of part of the competitiveness of, it's just like, the stuff that you kind of go through as a kid playing football as well. It's just parents screaming. It's a highly competitive thing, and I think unfortunately, when it comes to sport, football in the UK, kids are getting told that they're going to be a footballer at 10 years old. You don't even know yourself.
Yeah, hard out.
It's so unfair to say that you're going to be something when you've not had a chance to explore, understand who you are, what you like, and you kind of get put into this area, and then eventually when you're 16, 17, they just chop you, and then it's like, well, what am I going to do the rest of my life?
And your identity is positioned into being a footballer. Nothing else. Like you get your satisfaction, gratification from being that guy, you know, from being a good footy player. And you get that for so many disciplines, with rugby, tennis. I guess whatever like top tier sport you play in. If you don't make it and you put all your eggs into one basket, it can be super tough on your mental health. Yeah,
and it's not talked about at all.
So true. Is there, and in Newcastle in particular, there's some hard geezers there too, isn't there?
Yep.
Like they're like, do have like tattoos of like Newcastle United?
It's a religion.
Yeah,
honestly, if you go there, how the football club is determines how the city's doing. So if the football's going through a hard time, the city will go through a hard time. If it's winning, everyone's way happier. People will say good morning to you. If they lose, and they'll start losing a lot more aggression, a lot more fights in town. It's a huge, around that area, if you look at the history, it's a working class area. Everyone got behind the team, and it's stayed like that now. Even though they've got billionaires looking after them.
Yeah, you got some Middle East money now,
some serious coin. So it's people are quite happy about that. Yeah. And it's just, there's so much pride, and just being, representing your hometown or supporting your home club, getting behind it. And you can sit beside someone who you never know, and then when they score, you're hugging them like it's a family member.
That's cool.
So
That's cool.
It is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
But it does take over your life. If you go there and you can't talk about football, you might struggle. I'll be honest with you. And before long, you end up knowing all the lingo just because everyone talks about it.
Yeah. Well, it is a beautiful game. It is a beautiful game.
Yep.
Okay, so you retire early at 22, 23 from playing football. What's next for you after that?
So I wanted to always liked health and fitness. That was my thing. And started training to become a personal trainer.
Yep.
Actually, before that, I was to work as a medical referral practitioner, so working with people who've just had heart attacks and getting them back into living day-to-day life. Did an interview and got told that I needed to get more confidence training people one-on-one. So went into personal training, realized I could make more money personal training what I was doing there, so kind of stuck there. And fell in love with training people, learning different things, how to improve my own performance, and then relating my injuries, because I was injured quite a bit playing football, into people, so how we can help fix them. And met a Kiwi and played a little football tournament with him, and he said, "Oh, wow, you're quite good." And I was like, "Thank you." And he was like, "Got an opportunity to come to New Zealand to play for Tower." And I was like, "What is Tower?"
Thunderclouds going in the back.
No, they did the best sales pitch ever. I got pictures of Granada like on a sunny day, and this is our training facilities. We've just moved into the highest tier of winter football, the Central League. we can give you a little bit of money and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, whoa, this is pretty good.
We've got a train station, we've got a BP, a couple of cafes. It's the place to go.
And I mean, I do. My experience before this, I thought Australia and New Zealand were the same weather-wise.
Right.
So I was like, moving to
How
the
wrong
sun.
were you?
Oh, man, I learned. And it was minus, I think the day I said yes, it was in February. And it was like minus 10 or something. It was snowy. The weather was crap. And I was like, why am I here? Screw it, I'm going to do it. And then, kind of got back into football after retiring. And then came over here. And the weather was beautiful until May. And the weather changed. And I did fall in love with football again.
Yeah.
It was nice. Different scenery, different people, different experiences. But yeah, I wasn't used to the football that was getting played over here in comparison to back home.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I guess it must be probably many tiers below the sort of quality of English football.
I don't. I've got to be careful here because my teammates might listen to this. Yeah, I mean, just different. Just it's more about it wasn't about what I was used to in the UK, which is movement away from the ball. It was more with the ball, and nice way of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super interesting. We should get that guy into if he's not into like a sales business at the moment, that man should definitely be like selling something to someone to sell, an individual all the way in Newcastle in the UK, the prospect of playing football for Tower FC and getting them to move half the way around the world. That's pretty incredible.
Honestly, he's a very trustworthy guy. And if you know Tower Intermediate School, he's the vice principal there. So
nice.
So he's very much part of the community. Yeah. And I mean, really good guy. I've got a lot of time for him. And I'm glad that he did because, the life I'm living now is one that I never thought I would be able to live, to be honest with you.
Yeah, nice. So it's cool, man.
Yeah.
So you've moved all the way back into New Zealand from Newcastle. Yeah. I'm expecting that was like a one-way ticket. You just over here?
Open return.
Nice.
So for a year.
Yeah.
So I had a chance to see what it's like. If I want to stay. If not, I can go back with some stories to tell.
Yeah, cool. And from there, what were the next sort of steps that you took? Did you find work as a PT in New Zealand? Or?
Yeah. So part of the kind of deal was they would help me get connected with Les Mills. So started working there as a PT.
Nice.
And looking at the gym, Les Mills was a big deal in the UK because all the classes, the body pump and stuff, they get taught in the gyms. And it was like the Mecca. So I was there and I was like, right, okay, see there's another 40 personal trainers. And I'm like, right, if I need to survive here, I need to really work for it.
Yeah.
So, put all my kind of effort into building the business, building the brand, was able to do that, able to survive. And like the life expectancy of a PT isn't that great. I think it's like 90% of PTs will fail in the first year.
True.
And then it goes up and up after people start to understand about taxes and their business plans, things that not often looked at when you come to being a PT. So started working as a PT and fell in love with what I was doing and started moving away from what I was traditionally doing, which was when I got here was strength. And then during that time, 2012, I lost my dad and I got really sick myself and I couldn't do what I was originally doing. Even though aesthetically I looked good, mentally I was falling apart. My body was falling apart. And when I kind of got the all clear to go back into training, mindset had to change. I couldn't flash myself in the gym. There was no more of that. And it was starting to learn about mobility, crawling around on the floor like an animal at the time, animal floor sort of stuff, and breathing and things that weren't really seen in the gym. I used to get laughed at some of the times doing the stuff, but it was, looking back now, was probably the best thing for what my body wanted then, and I still kind of use that now to train myself.
Nice. When you say you got sick, was that you felt like, was it illness?
Yeah, combination. So it was because when I lost my dad, it was very abrupt. I woke up to I think it was like 150 missed calls from family members saying, call home now. That's an intensive care. He's got maybe 24 hours to live. Anyone who flies to the UK knows it takes longer than 24 hours. So I didn't know, I went on the plane not knowing if my dad was going to be alive anymore or not. He was, and then 2 or 3 days later he passed away. And then I had to bury him on my birthday.
That's hard.
So yes, that was pretty tough. And
Did he fall sick? What was?
so that was the part that got me, because my brother works as a pharmacist.
Mm-hmm.
We both work in health, and what we realized that he was suffering from loneliness. You know, I was the youngest. I was named after my dad, and when I moved over to New Zealand, you know, he was struggling, and I was too focused on whatever was going on in my life at that time to realize that. And it took me, I blame myself a lot after he passed away. There was a lot of guilt, and that came into like abuse on my own body. So that was drugs, alcohol, whatever I could get my hands on to kind of escape that guilt. And when, basically, so my dad just started to stop looking after himself, you know. So it was a combination. He had a couple of heart attacks. He was diabetic. He was on quite strong medication for depression. And he also got pneumonia as well. And when we got back to the house was a pigsty. It was just, there had been some building work going on, and there was just all this dust around, and that's what he was breathing in his lungs, which kind of made the pneumonia worse.
Yeah.
And it was just like, how did we not know? And you know, this guy who's literally given everything for us, and the one moment he suffered or struggled, we weren't there. And I know both my brother and I have, even to this day, we still have a hard time talking about it, just because, you know, he gave us so much, and I always feel like I could have done more. I think I'm always going to do with it. But I think you learn to live with it when it comes to grief. It comes and goes.
Yeah, comes in waves.
But it's like, I say he's the best example for me, or his experience is something that I'll always, you know, look at, and he's still guiding me now, even though he's not here. You know, just to be proactive about certain things, look after yourself, you know, because before you know it, you know, things can go in an instant. So
so true. And it's what an awesome legacy you've left in the honor of your old man as well. Because if anyone follows you on social media, you know, a lot of the running work, and I think probably why you're doing the work that you are doing today is, you know, in memory of your old man. So, you know, that's super beautiful in itself. When you went through, I guess, dealing that grief and going through a bit of a hard time for yourself, what did rock bottom look like for you?
I remember this day very, very, very well. It was a Tuesday morning, and I woke up and I was coughing a lot, and ended up coughing up some blood. Just drinking a bottle of Rabbit Ranch every night at least. That was at least what I was having, and I was having about 6 or 7 coffees a day. It was just, I was using stimulants to get me through the day, and then I was using alcohol to get me to kind of wind down with sleeping tablets, sort of forming quite a dependency on them. And coughing all this blood, and I was like, what is going on? And as I was in the shower, cleaning myself, noticed there was a lump on my testicle. And I was like, I deserve this. This is, you know, this is for me, for being a bad person, being a bad son. And, you know, I honestly thought it was 100% cancer. I was like, I've got cancer.
Yeah, it's totally what you think, eh?
So it was just like, I didn't say anything to anyone. Didn't say it, like, all I did was like, right, well, however long I've got, you know, and that's it. And I just remember going to work that day, and people were talking to me, and it was like, you're not here. Like, I was literally just looking through people. And eventually, you know, I mentioned to someone, one of my close mates at the time, and he was like, you need to go to the doctor ASAP.
Don't tell me. Say this to a doctor.
And it was amazing that I was actually able to say it, because half the things I was going through, I wouldn't say. People would be like, oh, you're right. And I'd be like, yes, I'm sweet as. And then carry on with the rest of the day. I usually ask more questions about you and say what's going on with you. So you took the attention away from me. And it got to the point where I went to the doctor, and doctor tested. He was like, oh, it's just a cyst, you know, these can happen. Nothing, just get it checked up every couple of years, but you're fine. And did some other health checks. And I said to him, I was like, I'm all right. And he was like, your health tests are saying otherwise. And he kind of was like, off you go. And I remember that moment, and I was sitting in my ex's bedroom, like bawling my eyes out. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know if I can keep on doing this. I don't even know if I want to be here. It was getting pretty severe. but no one knew. No one had any clue. And yeah, that was pretty scary to think that, you know, it felt like there was no other way out to a certain degree. It was like, you know, anything bad I deserve. I don't deserve anything good to happen. And I was like kind of pushing myself into scenarios that I knew weren't good for me. But it was like, well, that's what you deserve, so you just got to deal with it.
And was that the narrative that was playing inside of your head? Like as you'd wake up, it was, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I don't deserve this. Yeah.
It was just, I kind of just, getting through the day was like a miracle. And then at the end of the day, it would be like, you know, you're just a waster and all this sort of stuff. And then it would be Friday to Sunday night was just alcohol and drugs just to get through it. It was like, in a weird way, it was a happy time because it was, the thoughts went.
Yeah.
And I could just be me and be present and in a weird way.
Yeah.
Just Monday would come and the come down, the hangovers.
The Sunday scaries.
Oh, yep. And you find myself, as I say, just with a massive lump in my throat, just didn't want to talk to anybody, isolating myself, all that sort of stuff. It was just, you look at all these things now, and I'm like, yeah, if I continued that path, I wouldn't be here. I can tell you now. So it would have got unbearable for me.
During that time, what are you doing for work, and are you still being a PT?
Yep, you're still being a PT.
And so you're there working directly with other people, helping them better their sort of physical and mental health when you're struggling and not okay at all.
Yep. And unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, it's a trait a lot of PTs have. We put so much focus on trying to improve other people, so we don't actually have to look at ourselves. And I can see the irony in it. I'm telling you to do all this sort of stuff, and there I was. So some days I wouldn't eat, and if I did eat, it would be takeaways. You know, I used to clients used to catch me like in takeaways and be like, "Ben, you've been here like 2 or 3 times this week," and I would be like, "Oh, well, you know, I'm training a lot and all this." I would make an excuse. It's
justify it.
Yeah. It was just like,
get it from my mate.
It was like, it got really bad. So, but like, as I say, aesthetically, it was probably the best shape I had ever been in because I wasn't healthy at all. But if you looked at me, you'd be like, oh yeah, he looks after himself pretty well. So my business actually improved just because of the way I looked.
True.
But mentally, and I was giving so much attention to clients. They'd be like, you always asking questions, you're always wondering how I am. I would put so much focus on them, as I say, to take it away from me, that they thought, oh, well, he's a really good trainer. But
what was the turning point for you when you're in this like mental health crisis? How did you overcome? It sounds like physical exercise was still there for you, and you're still probably using that as like a tool. Because I think a lot of people, when they look into mental health, you know, it's, if you can start like the natural endorphins that get released when you work out, I think is hugely beneficial for anyone, right? Let alone anyone that's going through depression. But it sounds like you were already doing that and still feeling like, you know, you were a piece of shit. Yeah. That's the narrative you're having inside your head. What did you do then to get out of that hole? I'm
a competitive person. And that moment the doctor said there's nothing else I can do, it really pissed me off, because I was like, I'm actually trying to tell you something's wrong and you didn't listen. And I was like, well, screw you, I'm going to do it myself. So it was like a switch got flicked, and I was like, right, I'm going to learn as much as I can about this, and I'm going to change everything that's going on. And it wasn't out of a need to help myself, it was to prove that doctor, like, I wanted to go back to him and say, you're full of shit, I did this. So it was like anger. It was like something just to focus on. And it took me down a path of learning about different, you know, eating better, looking at lifestyle. You know, got into a book called The Blue Zones. Now, the Blue Zones are the longest living populations around the planet.
Oh, okay.
And was reading, there's like 9 things that they have, and I was like, right, how can I start using that to integrate it into my own life? Because this is proof. You know, this is living proof. Never mind the science. There's some stuff here that we can see. and that just took me down this rabbit hole, just trying different things, moving away from certain people. And yeah, you could see I got pretty I got pretty lean. I got pretty skinny because I did some extreme diets, let's just say. And
what some interesting?
Oh, there was the GAPS diet. So the GAPS is because I knew my gut was all over the place. Like I think the worst my stomach got to, I was like constipated for like 2 weeks.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Literally.
So yeah, it was just like when you start learning that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
It was like started learning about gut health, and this is the gut and psychological kind of diet. So I was just looking at eating. I was having bone broth for like a week. I went on a detox. I just had bone broth.
Far out.
Yeah, did the keto diet, did it all, and I was just got very experimental and started diving into more of the mental well-being as well, because I was just obsessed with the physical side, because I was like, I understand that makes sense, like I'm quite science driven, so I was like, right, and then eventually I started working across towards the psychological side, which was hard. First ever session I went, I sweated so much that we had to change the chair. And it was like what they were saying was a kind of response to all the trauma that's gone through.
Is that with your therapist?
Yeah, therapist. So
really?
like literally I was sitting there and just sweat just started pouring out of me.
Wow.
And I was like constantly moving, and she was like, I'm just gonna get you another chair. And I had to get someone to pick me up because physically I was so exhausted.
Wow.
And it's like years and years of stuff that you're holding in is kind of coming out now. And yeah, it was like it was I still remember them sessions. The first couple of sessions, they were really hard. She had to ask a lot of questions to get anything out of me.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty remarkable stuff that she was able to see and do that.
That's amazing, eh? It sounded like throughout all of this, you had that desire yourself to also, get yourself through how you were feeling with your depression. Were there anyone, because so many other people, they don't have that desire to, when they're battling with the black dog and they got those negative or suicidal feelings. Some people can't even have it in themselves to do education, look into research, and try and explore alternative ways of getting themselves out of a rut. And so they have to rely on others to get them through and have those really difficult conversations with them. Did you have anyone close to you during this time, whether it was a friend or a family member who had to really convince you that you needed to change, or was there a part of you which you knew it just needed to be done?
My partner, Alicia Ordering, she we had just got together. We had just had relationships were quite traumatic, and then we kind of found each other, and it was different. I came from quite like the highs were high, the lows were low, and this person was consistent, just constantly there.
True.
And I wasn't used to that, and it was calming, and the family was very calming as well, and they were very supportive when I was going through hard times. So having that sort of foundation there never forced me to do anything. They were just like, look, whatever decision you do, we're behind you, which was weird because I'm usually getting told what to do and what not to do. And they were just like, maybe look into this. So I think they helped a lot.
Yeah.
I also think it was my dad as well. My dad, as I say, was very much like, if there's something to do, do it. And, education, it's like, you are responsible for yourself.
Self-responsibility.
Yeah, it's like you can't, if you can't look after yourself, don't expect to try and help to look after others. So I think it was a combination of that as well. And eventually, I didn't want to let my family down. I didn't want to let people down who, saw potential in me. And it was like, right, you actually need to start standing up and being a man and making yourself a bit more accountable to your actions, because I don't think I was. So it was something, I think it was a combination of just them people at the right place, right time for me. And from there it was just started learning more about this, and it was like my gaze had changed. So I could see people who I admired who were suffering. And I was like, you're going through the same as me. You're going through the same as me. So I kind of started trying to do this men's health movement around 2013, 14. I would do talks on maybe one person would show. And I'm like, what is going on? Why is nobody involved in this? We're all struggling here. It's like we all suffer. There's no, there's no reward for the person who suffers the most and keeps quiet about it.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a time and place to talk. Do it. And embrace the challenges as well instead of running away from them, because nothing good comes from that. So yeah, so it was just I don't know. I just think my life has been more where it's been tough, but without that toughness, I probably wouldn't have been able to fight back from that scenario in 2012. So yeah, just in a weird way, I'm very thankful for the upbringing that I had, because as you say, it makes you appreciate things when they actually are going right.
So true.
So yeah, I would say definitely my partner's family. My partner was definitely a huge influence on me trying to address some of these issues.
Yeah, such a complex topic, mental health, especially within New Zealand. Like, and I've mentioned it before on the podcast, like having friends personally who have taken their lives through suicide, and it's just so crazy, and it just keeps happening. But I'm a strong advocate, and another reason why I love having these conversations on this podcast is because through doing this, it can help normalize, especially among men, talking about these things when you're feeling shit, where you just don't want to mention it to anyone because you feel like that you're just being a hindrance to somebody else. That having these conversations on platforms, whether it's big or small, goes a little way into normalizing the conversation. And not normalizing the conversation in a way where people are victims to themselves, and almost like normalizing, that sort of mindset. But I think it goes a long way in normalizing that it's okay not to feel okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And hearing people like yourself, I've had Jahan Castaneda on the podcast before, who's written a book around his experience on depression. Having people like you guys talking about some practical tools as well that you can take to really sort of help turn your life around. But yeah, it's such an interesting topic of conversation. It's like, I just feel like, it's like, if we had a magic ball, what would those things be that you could wish upon to make some big, massive improvements in the mental state of New Zealanders? Do you think that's like better access to counselling and support? Is it like tall poppy syndrome? Is like what is pushing people towards feeling this way?
I think isolation is a huge one, where we are isolated, especially in this day and age of social media and all this sort of stuff. You can communicate without actually seeing anyone. The pandemic obviously was a huge thing as well. Tall poppy syndrome, 100%. And I think it's a combination of things. This can go down so many different avenues. I would say not living the lifestyle that we need. I think a lot of us spend too much time indoors. We spend too much time doing things for the wrong reasons. We're not doing it for trying to find our passions, trying to find our purpose. I think that's a huge thing, because when I changed my perspective, I was so happy to go back to work with that. Now work doesn't fit, even though it's hard, to know that I'm helping somebody makes it so much more worthwhile to go through that suffering. And yeah, I think, eat the way we eat, just our whole lifestyles, just there's so much that we do. And I think there's a really good guy, his name's Nigel Beach, he's a good mate of mine. And he was saying that anyone who's showing really strong signs of inflammation can affect the way that they think. Whereas if you're in pain, your body and your brain doesn't work the way it should be, and it's like, okay, so just understanding yourself a bit better and not overlooking these small things. It's all about the foundations. Yeah, whatever your foundations are, that's what you constantly go back to. And if you're not looking at them and you're trying to do all these little changes here and there, the foundation isn't strong. It's just going to fall through. And for me, it's do something for your community. The stuff that I do for my community now.
Yeah.
I can't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
Do something for yourself, for your family. It's like, it's nothing crazy, but it's the hardest part, I think, is staying consistent, especially when you're busy. And, there are hard times now financially as well. So people, it's the first thing that tends to go away, gym memberships, being physically fit. I'm going to do it at home. I don't care who you are. You do it for like a week. And then after that, it's like, nah, man, I'm not doing this anymore. It's like...
Don't kid yourself.
And it's like, as exercising with friends, just giving yourself, for me, I like to have people to keep me accountable as well. So
important, eh?
Yeah, it's just like, you cannot do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing that is often overlooked on this.
Yeah. Agree, man. Agree. Yeah, there's so much in there. I think social media has got like a big role in all of this, because you're constantly like comparing yourself to who you're following, and you could be, following bloody Leonardo DiCaprio who's sitting on a super yacht with like 12 babes, and you're like, what the hell? Like this is not fair. Someone lives this life, and it's that old saying, like comparison is the thief of joy, and it's so true. What do you think some of the like most common misconceptions are about men's mental health in New Zealand?
Oh, really good question. So my thing, there's something the last couple of years, definitely the word toxic masculinity. I am not a fan of that word, I'll be honest with you. It's, for me, that is causing more of an issue. I feel like a lot of guys are not too sure how they need to be acting now. And, if you actually look at that term, it's for people who were murdering people and somehow it got put into everyday society. So, yeah, I think that's one thing. Being there for our mates, like being there for each other, I think that's a huge issue. It's we don't have to solve the problems.
Yeah.
Like, so many people have reached out to me saying, oh, my friend's opened up and I don't know what to do. Don't need to do anything. Just be there. That's all they're after. And I think there's a crazy stat, like 70% of guys have said they'll be there for their friends. Only 30% reach out. And it's just like, I don't know. I find that me telling you, for example, another man, about stuff that's going on, we can probably relate better than anybody else, because there could be a strong possibility that you're going through the same sort of thing. Yeah. And that strengthens our bond. And it's like, I don't know. I think there's an embarrassment when it comes to male health as well. It's like something
in general, physical health even as well. Like going to the doctor to get something checked out on your balls.
Exactly.
Like,
and like I did a talk once, and I was like, who has a hard time waking up with a morning wood? Well, everyone was like, what the hell is this talk? But
what a way to start the conversation, eh?
But the thing was that has a direct effect to your heart health.
Yeah, true.
So if your arteries are blocked, first thing to go to is your penis. So it's like, if you have a family history of heart disease, and let's just say you're struggling to wake up with an erection first thing in the morning, that could be something that alarm bell. So it's like a body.
So if you're not,
okay.
I was about to say,
if you're not, but like,
never knew that. It's so interesting.
So it's like these things, our body tells us when something's not right. Yeah, it's just that we're not aware of it.
True.
So, and then what, if someone's struggling with this, what they'll do, they'll get something like some medication. That's actually putting more pressure on the heart. Yeah. So that's why it says do not take if you've got heart conditions and stuff like that. So these things that we should really know about. For me, every guy should be getting a blood test every 6 to 12 months of just basic cholesterol. If you look at the biggest killer, heart disease, so go and see what's going on with the cholesterol. Go and see how inflamed the body is. Have a look at your testosterone levels. Are you someone who's too stressed? Here's a crazy story. So got my partner and I went through IVF to have my child. Got my first sperm count tested. It was like 90 million or something like that. So
is that good?
Very fertile, yeah. So, and then it was around my dad's anniversary, and this would have been like 6 years. It dropped down to 9 million.
From 90?
So that was a huge, I remember people from the IVF clinic were like, "Is something going on?"
Wow.
And I just said, "Look, it's close to my dad's anniversary," and they were like, "That just shows the sign of stress in your body."
Right.
So it's like knowing these things, low testosterone can affect depression, things like that. It's like we know more about cars or whatever gadgets than what we do ourselves.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, it's like that's what I mean. It's like having these conversations, letting people know.
Yeah,
get these tests done. Look at these numbers.
Yeah.
This might mean that you need to change something instead of waiting to take medications or whatever, which then have a huge impact on the rest of your life.
And you also probably put more money into your car than you do looking after your own car, your own vehicle, which takes you through life.
Yeah.
I remember hearing something about like LeBron James, and I think he spends over $1 million every year on his like physical fitness, recovery, and like rehab around his body.
Yeah.
And it made me think out. I was like, shit, I've only got a $6.99 like gym membership at City Fitness, like, and a jiu-jitsu membership. But like, I could be doing so much more.
Yeah.
Doing things like, I don't know, going for like have a massage or go to the pool, sauna. You were talking about sauna earlier today. Like those things are so important.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. I also read something in a book recently, and like if you had a car and you got told that you had this one car, but this was the only car that you had for your entire life, you would treat that thing like it was just the most precious thing in the world to you, because you only got one shot. If you break it, if you crash it, it's done.
Yeah.
You'd be taking that to get a service when it needs it. You'd be cleaning it, be keeping your garage often. Yeah. But when it comes to like our body, we've only got one vessel to get us through 80, 100 years if you're lucky. So many people just abuse it. Yeah. And it's so interesting, eh? But a lot of those people that do abuse it just were never taught about the importance of not doing that.
Yeah. And taken for granted as well.
Yeah.
It's like you see a lot of guys, once was it you use your health to get wealth, and then you use your wealth to try and regain your health again. So it's like we work so hard to try and get this lifestyle that we think is going to be perfect. There's no point in having it if you can't use your body, It's
so
like
true.
So it's just kind of checking, as you say, great analogy of the car. It's like look after it. We tend to kind of say stupid knee or things like that. It's like, nah, that knee's doing exactly what it needs to. It's the lifestyle that we're living, which is causing it to be dysfunctional and cause pain. It's like, are you spending all day sitting down? Are you moving around? It's like the body is designed to move. And it's always a battle between your body and your brain. Your brain's designed to do nothing. It wants to save energy. And the body wants to burn energy. The brain is very clever. It can negotiate like, it's all right, just do it tomorrow.
I know.
No one needs to know about it. It's all these little things that it does. And you just like, it will always...
So counterintuitive almost, eh?
Yeah, and it will do whatever it can so you don't do what you need to. But the problem is that the body starts screaming, saying, I don't like this. But what we do, we ignore it.
And you've never gone, I've never gone for a run, for example, or gone to the gym and then like really regretted it afterwards. It's just the process of getting there and like getting your shoelaces tied and showing up to the gym or like pressing go on Strava. Yeah. But then once you go through that, it's like, man, you just feel so good. Yeah. Feel so much better. Do you get there a lot, like mental clarity?
Oh, 100%. It's like a accomplishment. It's like, I don't care if I didn't get everything done on my list. I got that done. As one thing. And it's like, that's 1% better than what I was before, So it's, I just think it kind of carries on in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So movement for me, running for me, exercise, stretching, whatever it is. Sometimes it's just sitting doing nothing. It's important. It is so important.
What is, on that note, what does your daily routine look like? Like, do you have any morning routines? What does that look like?
When you've got a 4-year-old, it can change a lot. So usually, if I can, I would love to get up and I like to do some movement straight away. So my thing is I've got movement foundations, which I like to move my ankles a lot, my hips and my spine. So if you think of ankles and your hips, they're ball and socket joints are designed to move 360. And then your spine is, say, as old as your spine. So I try to keep that as mobile as possible. So I'll get that done. If I do have the chance, I'll go out for a run then. I'm a morning run person.
Nice.
I like that. That's nice and quiet.
Yep.
And
What
it's
time's your ideal time for
six,
a morning
six,
run?
well, it can be from 5 to 6 in the morning,
Yep.
ideally. It all depends on how well I've slept.
Yep.
But yeah, usually about 6 o'clock would be good. And it's usually an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Come back. Son's just waking up about that time.
Mm-hmm.
Can spend a bit of time with him. Or if I've got to go to work. And then I like to do food-wise, as I'm very regimented on my food, so I like to eat at certain times. Yeah, so it's like if someone was trying to assassinate me, it's very easy. It's like I do the same running routes. It's like, yeah, I just
To the T.
Yeah, it just means that I can plan my day, and it makes life easy. It's one less thing to worry about. It's like decision fatigue. I don't, I need that process in my brain to be able to focus on things that I really need instead of just going out and doing that.
Yeah.
So usually go to work in the morning as well, and then work with some clients. Lunch tends to be the same sort of things. Afternoon, I like to go to the gym. I tend to find in the afternoon I'm a bit warmer, so I can do my strength work. I'm more awake. Pick up child from Punna or daycare, and then from there spend a bit of time with him, family. Goes to bed, try to do a couple of stretches.
Nice.
And then my partner and I are working very hard on just having some time where there's no phones and we're actually got to ask each other questions and actually, because we had a relationship before a child, and then sometimes it kind of gets forgotten about, and it's just always about the child.
Yeah.
And relationships can suffer. We've definitely had our hard times and stuff because of that. So we're really making a focus on.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah, spending a bit more time together. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, relationships are so much work, eh?
Yeah.
You've got to really, really put it in to get stuff out of it. And I think that's such a good idea, just to like cut phones away. Like me and my missus, so often, we'll just be caught there. And it's nice because it's also like chill time, but we might just be on social media and, it's like, oh, whole hours pass. Haven't said anything to each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's nice. Just be really intentional with the time that you've got.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be like deep and meaningful chats.
No.
It can be like, we've got to find a fact
of
a day and tell each other about it. It can be a stupid fact. It doesn't make a difference. We're communicating.
Yeah.
And we find that we like to try and practice a bit of gratitude to each other.
Nice.
Like what are a couple of things that we're grateful for, what the other person's done during that day. Because, as you know, being a parent is hard and you don't really get that much gratification for it. So just being like, when I saw you do this, it helped me so much. So thank you for doing it. Yeah, just them little things. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So
and stuff you wouldn't usually verbalize or communicate.
Yeah.
But you would think, but you wouldn't actually do the expression. Take your time to say that one thing, even if it was something really small. I like that. It's cool.
Yeah, So.
And you recently ticked off a 60-kilometer run. You've done a couple of them now?
Yep, second one. Yeah.
Mate, talk me through that. That's wild.
So more than the run, that connects into Movember. And the whole thing is there's 3 distances which are based around stats and men's health. So the 10K is for the 10% of men who are suffering from social anxiety across Australia and New Zealand. The 30K is for the 30% increase with men suffering from mental distress. I think it's since the pandemic. And then the 60K is for a guy who we lose every 60 seconds because of suicide. And that's globally as well. So I wasn't too sure if I was going to do it this year, to be honest. But yeah, the run to me is a way of remembering my dad. Unfortunately, I lost my partner's father as well to lung cancer. To all the people who we've tried to help and men's health. And it's like I do it to show kind of other people you can do it as well. Because I used to hate running. I used to hate runners. I used to hate everything about running. And now I'm one of them idiots that you see every day running with a million pairs of shoes, lots of running clothes. I don't tend to wear anything else apart from running clothes.
Nice.
So it's taken over my life.
Yeah.
And in a good way. And yeah, just kind of showing people that, when you push yourself, you train and things like that, you can do some pretty remarkable things. And the weather was absolutely crap on that day. It was suddenly 80K plus winds. And it kind of was fitting about mental health and men's health because it's not always going to be
true.
sunny.
It's all sunshine and rainbows.
Nah, you've got to kind of grind through this stuff and push yourself. And the irony was the following day was nice and sunny. And I was like, oh, it could have been quite nice to be on the following day. But no, it was amazing. And we got the community behind it. The 60K itself for me, the first 30Ks were all right.
Yep.
And then 40, I would say probably the last 10Ks, I was just over it. I just wanted it to be done. And there was a bit of a break from the wind. Started running a bit faster and then kind of got towards Scorching Bay. It was waiting for me.
That's rough.
It was just that last 5K mark as well.
Yep.
And that last 5K felt like I ran 50K in it. But yeah, it was jumped in the sea afterwards. There's me and one other person. Everyone else had literally gone home. It was a bit of an anticlimax because we expected like 100 people to be there. Yeah. And there was about...
Was that because it took you guys so long to...
Well, there was a bit of a delay. There were a couple of the other 60K runners who did remarkable. There was one guy who took like 7 hours to do it. And it was like, this guy was muscular as well. He had quads like my waist. It was But we're a little bit behind schedule and it was cold. So people just wanted to go home. That's fine. But you kind of build this image of everyone being there. I wanted my son to run the last little part with me. Yeah. So we got my Movember t-shirt. Nice. And he had his jacket on in the car. He was like, I'm not getting outside. I was just like,
I'm not crazy.
I was like, oh God, this is not working out how it was meant to be. Yeah. And but it was. I look at that run now and I'm like, probably one of the hardest runs I've done. But so many special moments. The people who helped me get to the end, I had some kind of people who picked me up from the 30K mark. There was a guy from the start who helped. And it was like, yes, I may have achieved it, but I wouldn't have achieved it if it wasn't for those people.
Yeah, that's nice, man.
And it's like, that's what it's all about. It's like, it's great to try and do something for yourself, but you need people around you who can help support you. And it's the same for mental health. So it's like, I look at so many ways that intertwine into life. And it was, I look back at it now and it's something that I'm very proud of.
It's epic. That is so epic. 60 kilometers is no small feat, eh? That is wild.
There's going to be some, actually, I don't know if I should say this on podcast. There's going to be potentially a group of us looking to run around New Zealand the next amount of days.
Around New Zealand?
Yeah, pretty much. So originally I was thinking about doing it myself.
Is it literally running around New Zealand?
Well, running from the bottom of New Zealand all the way to the top.
That's cool. That's awesome.
But to try and do it in a month.
Yeah.
But now it's changed slightly, which is quite good. There's going to be a team of us.
Cool.
So we don't know. That's 2024. But hopefully something like that can happen.
Epic.
And
watch this space.
Yeah, and I'll be running a lot more Ks as well. So
like the mileage to lead up into that is insane. Yep. I was recently talking to you that ticked off my first marathon probably like 3 to 4 weeks ago now. And that was probably like the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. The same thing, obviously on a way different scale. It's not 60 Ks, but when I got to the final 5Ks, those last, like what you said, those last final 5Ks felt like 50 Ks. I had nothing left in the tank. I was a shell of a man. The photos are hilarious because everyone is, you get those really like elegant runners that run past you. And the photos which got sent back to me from the photographer, I'm just like in a world of pain. I don't even look like myself. I'm just like snot coming down my nose. And, But man, what an awesome feeling it is to get over the line for something like that. It's just a great sense of accomplishment. That's the cool thing about running, because like so many people are not fans. I've never been like a classic Strava guy running like 4 times a week or whatever. So it was really hard for me to sort of get into the training within this particular marathon. But there's something quite addictive about running in itself, because you can't cut any corners, because it will really stand out if you do cut any corners. And it's so simple. Everybody can run. It doesn't matter where you are. Well, touch wood, not everybody can run. Some people are unfortunately in wheelchairs, but the majority of people, if you got shoes, if you got feet, you can, just literally go to the beach, go on the pavement and just start running. and you don't need you don't really need all the flash gears.
No.
And it's such a true expression of almost like your soul. And that sounds really deep, but I feel like when you're out there and you're running, that little voice goes into your head, but it's like the true reflection of who you are as an individual when you go through like long mileage, I reckon, because you go through massive peaks and declines of like your own mental health when you're running the race, don't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super cool. If anyone's thinking about it, and I also feel like I'm getting to that age where like Strava has become like my social media of choice. I'm like, who have I become?
It's you can now do videos, you can message,
you can send DMs.
Yeah, it's getting there.
I was saying to my mate, I was like, this is gonna like so many more relationships are gonna be formed through Strava. So you can slide into the DMs on Strava now. It's hilarious.
And I think it's so true what you said, and you should get them photos and put them on your page.
Yeah.
Because, that is you being you.
Yeah, totally.
I think I love them photos, to be 100%. Honest with you. I've got pretty good at knowing where the photographers are, so I can do some nice poses.
Yeah. Chuck on the stoic face.
It's usually arms out smiling.
Nice.
But yeah, I just think running is, as you say, there's no shortcuts. It's like you get out what you put in.
So true.
Running's the easy part. It's everything else. It's the stretching, the strength work,
100%.
Going to bed, eating enough. Running is like a form of movement, and it's if you look at kids running, they're always laughing or stuff. It's kind of like dance. I don't see anyone unless you're a professional dancer. When you dance, you've got a huge smile on your face. It's like freedom, and it's it's an expression of moving through your body. And if we didn't have the ability to run, we wouldn't be here today. So I think as you say, people are designed, if they can, to run, and if you can do it correctly and not go crazy hard. Like, I'm all about reducing the intensity, and it's not about how much you do, it's about how much you can absorb. And it's take the intensity away, enjoy it, run with somebody, run with others. I tend to find running side by side with somebody way more enjoyable, and you can actually have some deep conversations because it's not quite intense.
True.
So I've had some of my most compelling conversations. It seems to be a place where if I have some great ideas, it's helped shape my business, going out for a run and then being like, right, there you go. Kind of just helps to reorganize the brain a bit. And it gives you a bit of space, especially if you've had a busy morning or whatever it is.
100%.
I just think it's just something that, you don't expect to get all this stuff, but it just keeps on gifting you more and more. And I don't think it stops. I think that's why it's such a remarkable thing. And it's one sport where you can see a 60-year-old absolutely dominate a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Tell me any other sport
100%.
It's like age doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even, your sex doesn't matter. It's like you look at these amazing women who are running ultra marathons and absolutely dominating it.
Yeah.
Beating the boys and all that sort of stuff. I just think there's just something magical about running.
Totally agree. What I found really amazing at the Queenstown Marathon was going to the finish line like around hour 6 of the race. So these are like, the late finishers coming through. And that for me was the most inspiring part. Seeing people crossing the line who, they got some big rigs on them. You'd look at them, you'd be like, you're not a runner. How you would not be able to run 42 kilometers, but they fucking do it. And I just thought that was so incredible. Like, for someone that physically maybe doesn't have like the typical physical attributes of a marathon runner or a runner in general, yet they've put themselves through 6 hours worth of pain. Like, that is so much more impressive to me than the person that won it.
100%.
It was incredible.
And it's, as you say, sometimes the last finisher gets more of a cheer than the first because people are just there, just supporting.
100%.
And it's, as you say, it's a sport where you and I could be running together. We could be in a race, but I'm encouraging you. It's like, all I want is for you to do well.
Yeah.
I want to do well and I want you to do well. Not many times you hear that. It's usually, I want me to do well and I want you to be behind me.
Yeah.
I don't care. If we both get a PB, that's amazing.
How doubt.
So it is something that it doesn't matter who you are, what size you are, people say they're not a runner. I think,
Mm.
I think we're all, to a certain degree, athletes who like
Mm.
to, who want to run or like to run, who need to run. And I just think it's something that it's hard to get into at first because we tend to use running as punishment. If you think of any sport, you did this wrong, go and do some laps.
Yeah.
And
Shuttle
it's like,
runs.
yeah, it's just like
Beep test.
exactly all these sort of things where if you actually just do relaxed running, it is so enjoyable.
Mm.
And I think it's changing people's mindset of that
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, I've got to go for a run. No, I get to go for a run.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly getting a lot more popular, right? Like
Yep.
a lot more people are like, oh, cool, I'll give a half marathon a dig. And, you've got your running group,
Yeah.
Zone Blue, which
Yep.
is awesome.
Yeah.
And is that just really bringing people around like a shared purpose?
So Zone Blue is kind of a spin-off from the Blue Zones. So I couldn't use the
That's
zone.
the old age sort of, yeah.
So one of the things we're community, low intensity exercise. And I was like, right, well, and also for me, something that I struggled with in New Zealand was being a foreigner is having my own friend circle.
Mm.
I found Wellington sometimes can be quite cliquey.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get into people's circles and I could get into it a little bit and then I get pushed out again. And it was something that I really struggled with. So I thought, screw this, I'm going to try and make a community. And Zone Blue started with me and one other person turning up. And this year we had like 89 people show up 1 week.
Wow.
And it's a mix of Wellingtonians, people from overseas, people from different parts of, the country who are coming here and just wanting to connect.
Cool.
Like that's the whole purpose of Zone Blue. It's like, running is just a vessel of connection. It's like, that was the whole purpose behind it. It doesn't matter. It's never a race and stuff like that. We're all there together. And it's just kind of grown and grown. And, it's amazing what we were able to do with it in a very short amount of time. And it just shows the need for it because a lot of running clubs, you've got to pay X, Y, and Z. This is free.
Cool. You just show up.
You just show up.
Awesome.
Here's a shameless plug, 8 a.m.
Nice.
Freiburg.
Yep.
We go for a 30-minute run.
Awesome.
And then we go and get a coffee at I Empanadas just on the waterfront. And we've been able to help a business, grow and get a bit more popular. And we're doing runs for Relay for Life around the bays. We're taking a group down to Christchurch. We're going to be going to Hawke's Bay as well.
Yep.
So it starts off as running. It's much more than that. And it's like there's a huge social component of it as well. And giving people responsibility to actively take part of a community as well.
That's incredible. Do you get like many first-time runners just showing up?
Yeah, got quite a few people
Cool.
who've never ran an event. There's been so many people, I won't name them because I get embarrassed, but there's so many people I'm proud of who couldn't run and now they're running 5K, and people who this year, I think we had like 12, 15 people taking on distances that they've never done before.
Awesome.
And, they've challenged themselves. They actually got through it. They enjoyed it. It's now a huge part of who they are and how they identify with themselves. And I never thought I would be able to do it, to be honest with you. It was like something that was like a kind of a dream. And it's starting to kind of turn into a reality now. And as I said, the people in there are pretty remarkable.
That's cool, man. That's super cool.
And it's all about them. It's not about me.
Yeah.
It's like, I think all of us have a special talent, and mine tends to be I'm like a glue. I bring people together, and then I just move away and let them connect.
Cool. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's real nice. Just rewinding back a tiny bit, I was keen to ask you when you are running, because I really struggled in the Hurt Locker,
Yeah.
I like to think we're kind of friends now.
Yeah.
But it's a love-hate relationship. When you're going on your big, long, massive runs and you enter the Hurt Locker, do you have any tools or strategies that you go through yourself to get yourself through?
I'm a bit weird. I like the pain.
Nice.
The pain means that I'm close to getting past it and I'm on to that next level. But it's kind of the most basic thing is just one step at a time. I know my brain is trying to make me stop. My challenge is, and this is what I do because I'm a competitive person, is how far can you push it? How far can you go before you actually really need to stop? I mean, obviously, I don't want you to injure yourself, but the brain is like it's designed to have like a safety mechanism, and I think there's so much more potential from there. So, them warning shots, it's a form of distraction. I just try to distract myself. Can I get to that next lamppost?
Yeah.
Can I get to the next trail point? Can I just keep moving? Even if I have to walk, just keep moving, because the moment you stop, trying to move again is really hard.
Yeah, the momentum goes.
It's just gone, and it's just like, yeah. I just, for me, I try to distract myself as best I can. I try and focus on my breathing. If it's not the breathing, I have like a little mantra or whatever it come to my head. It's like, just keep going, just move forward, and I sing. I get aggressive with myself. So there's times if anyone saw me around, I screaming at myself, especially when there's wind in my face.
Yeah, true.
I'm effing and blinding like there's no tomorrow. So it's just like I cannot stand the wind, but I'll also love the wind at the same time because it's resistance work. And then before you know it, you've done whatever you needed to do, and you're like, oh shit, I've got through that. Now I can keep going. So everyone has something, but for me, I think I'm a bit sadistic, to be honest with you.
Nice.
It's like,
you like the pain.
It's like pain is like, this is what I was after.
Yeah.
This is what I was wanting to overcome.
Yeah.
This is why I do all the training for this moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, can I just grin and bear it for as long as I can?
It's addictive, eh? Like, I think back on it now, I'm like, I would almost like to go back to sitting in the running in the hurt locker again. Like, it's just, you totally want to see what you're capable of. The man, the myth, the legend, Ned Brockman, Australian ultra marathon runner. I remember listening to his podcast after he did the run from Perth over to Sydney, which is just fucking mind blowing. Like that is just next level. I think one of like the mantra he would tell himself was, if someone had a gun to your head and said, "Can you take an extra step?" you'd take an extra step, like 10 times out of 10. And I guess it's the same with running. You know what I mean? Can you take another step? Yeah, most likely you can. Yeah. You can take one more.
Yeah, I use my family a lot. It's like, if you want to think of that, it's if I had to run to my family, they were in danger.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that no matter how I'm feeling, I'll get to them.
Yeah.
So it's use whatever you can. And I think, as I say, it's just a chance to test yourself. And it's something that I think a lot of us are afraid to do now, which is a real shame. So every run, I never really, it's very rare that I'm like, yes, I'm 100% in this run. I can't wait to do this run. There's usually something, but then afterwards, I'm like, I'm so glad I did. I've never regretted a run, unless I got injured.
Yeah,
which, touch wood, hasn't happened too much to me. But yeah, there's, regardless of the weather as well, it's like you're gonna get wet if you're sweating or in the rain or whatever. It's like. Yeah, so all these excuses in my head, I call them excuses, but some people don't. But I just put them to the side and keep going.
That's awesome, bro. We'll finish up with some quick fire questions and then a quote. But before we do so, where can people get in touch with you and your mahi, Ben?
So I'm on social media on Instagram. So just my name, Ben Edusei, and then the Zone Blue page is there. So you want to see some of what we're doing for community work. I've got a website, just benedusei.com. And I work out of Sweat in Kai Whara. So work as a PT there. So if you ever want to come and do a bit of work with me, I'm more than happy to. And just drop me a message, an email, and I do my best to respond to you. And that's one way you can do it.
Awesome, bro. And we'll put links in the description below wherever you're watching or listening to this episode. Ben, what brings you true happiness?
Family.
Advice you wish you knew about when you were younger?
Don't rush, enjoy the struggle.
Perfect run distance.
Fast or slow? I guess if it's fast,
let's do both.
I do like a cheeky half marathon. That's a nice little distance for me.
Cheeky half.
Cheeky half. Long distance. I guess 60K would be the longest I've done. So for some reason, 100K someone says long distance, that to me sounds like long distance. So I need to do 100K.
Do you reckon you'll do 100K
Oh, 100%.
soon? Yeah.
100. The aim is, I've done the 60. It was meant to be 50. Then it's the 100K. And then it's the 100 mile, which is 160.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
all of them ticked off.
Yeah.
440, and I'm 38 now. So
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. If you could change one thing in New Zealand, what would this be?
Oh, the stats around men's health.
What does legacy mean to you?
Oh. Good question. Very good question. Legacy is doing the right things for the right people, regardless if the time was right or wrong.
I like that. What do you believe is the main thing that is holding back young people in New Zealand?
I would say, I guess opportunities, confidence, belief, and accountability.
Awesome. And we'll finish with a quote. This one's from Nelson Mandela. The greatest glory in living lies not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. Cheers, bro.
Thank you.